Ready to start?
Yes, sir.
The public meeting of City of Tallahassee Independent Elected Board is now called to order on this day, September 20th, 2022 at 4:02 p.m. The board members are present here at City Hall along with members of the public. With the assistance of the Communications Department and the Information Technology Department, this meeting is live streamed on the Ethics Board's website, and we are recording it for future reference. There is a delay with online communications, and we should all be patient. As always, we thank those members of the City of Tallahassee for their support. This time, please rise for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Fuller, please call roll.
Chair,
Present.
Brian Smith.
Here.
Ernie Kane. Ruby Barr. Kristen Costa. Robin Blank. And Pat Kelly. Present. Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Floyd. Did the board receive the minutes for the August 16th, 2022 meeting? Any comments, edits, or changes to those minutes? Do I have a motion to approve? A motion by Mr. Payne, second by Mrs. Blank. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. This time I review the public comment on agenda items and procedures for conducting the meeting. Board members, has everybody reviewed the agenda and supporting documents? Did you receive the addendum for agenda item number 12?
Yes.
Okay. Those attending the meeting online, please make sure your microphone is muted. Last week, we asked the public to make a request by email to the ethics@talgov.com by 1 p.m. on the day of the meeting if they wish to speak online on agenda or non-agenda items. Those who have submitted their names will be given a chance to speak as scheduled. For those who are present and wish to speak, please complete the request form and forward it to the ethics officer, Mr. Dwight Floyd. This time, we move on to the office report.
We still have public comment.
Let's do a public comment here. Yes, okay.
Mr. Herring on agenda item 8.
Great, okay.
Okay, Richard Herring, 1110 Ivanhoe Road. Half the people in this room are dues-paying members of an organization that engages in political speech, specifically legislative lobbying. That's the Florida Bar. Both the bar and its committees advocate legislative positions related to dozens of subjects, including taxation, creditors' rights, the arts, life insurance, dependent children, the Florida retirement system, and dog racing. Belonging to a broad-based organization does not mean that you support every single position it takes. I suggest that your proposed bylaw goes too far. Bylaws should address the internal operations of the board. For example, in order to enhance the public perception of the board's neutrality, bylaws could require members periodically to disclose certain political activities or require individual members to recuse under specific circumstances. However, the proposed bylaw goes extraordinarily far beyond the internal operations of the board. Let me give you a foreseeable example. The campaign of a candidate for city office chooses a novel color scheme to represent the campaign. If a board member regularly wears the same colors, or heaven forbid, owns a house painted those colors, they may be removed from the board. This bylaw not only attempts to control the speech of board members, it also converts normal activities into prohibited speech. When the board selected a new executive 2 years ago, we saw exactly the result of interpreting innocent daily activities into objectionable political speech. The proposed bylaw also has no exemption for de minimis violations by board members, an exemption the city was careful to include for minor ethics violations by the mayor and city commissioners. It does not require that complaints be sworn. It does not provide for much in the way of due process, and it indirectly limits the appointing authority of the university presidents, public defender, state attorney, and others. It would be ironic for the board to take its first formal action not against an elected official, but against one of its own members. Judges who are paid full-time officials, not part-time volunteer board members, have more leeway than this proposed bylaw allows. The Florida Code of Judicial Ethics prohibits judges from publicly endorsing candidates, from attending party functions, and from holding office in, making speeches for, or providing funding to political organizations. I suggest that the Florida Supreme Court standard for judges is a better standard than the proposed bylaw before you today. Next.
Mr. Stanley Sims, agenda item 8.
I'm gonna put a little urban spin on what he just said. Here's what my problem is with this. This board are citizens, and your voice is important. And I'm a little taken by this administration in this current election is holding economic Black Power movement meetings at his house. And yet we've got self-regulating on you all when we as citizens feels like the regulations that we are asking from you as an independent ethics board, you as a police advisory board, we feel, not you, but the other police advisory board that we have just established to what? Give us better access, transparency, and accountability. And we, the community, feel that we haven't got what we want. Not from you, not from the police board. We have Navy SEAL officer who decapitated a man's head training our TPD law enforcement. That's what we have. Now, according to MSNBC, they did a roster check. We have over 300,000 registered Proud Boys. 36,000 of them are teachers, firefighters, and police officers. Self-regulation should not be coming to you. Stricter self-regulations should be going to this administration. We're looking wrong here. The tragedies are still happening. And we don't see the enforcement from you. And I'm asking this board not and continue to fold. We need relief. I've come to you over and over. I've got a 22-month investigation that's still pending. The investigation was over in July. It's taking him 4 months to write the report. I have another civil complaint in the court that has been passed to the 4th judge that has recused himself. And that judge now is Curtis Richardson. We have issues, but the enforcement should not fall upon you all. You all need to be issuing more stronger enforcement.
That's it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 6, Ethics Office Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As stated, during this period, we've been working on an online course for newly elected officials. They have to take training within 60 days of becoming elected. In a discussion with the attorney, we've come to an agreement that even if they're already sitting in office, the way that the ordinance is written, they still have to take training as if they're newly elected. So I'm creating an online course that I'll bring to you next month for them. For most of them, be like a refresher. And then they'll all get training in January. Then I worked with training I do monthly for new employees, orientation, drafting the annual report, which is in today's agenda, revising the strategic planning, preparing other materials for the board. I attended a seminar on investigations to further enhance my skills in that area. and I spoke with the vendor, met with the vendor that you'll hear from today. Also we worked with expenditures and the regular administrative work, meeting with the chair and attorney, and responded to complaints. On the budget, it is, as you see, we have a balance of $120,000 at the end of August. So we'll have a sizable balance by the end of the fiscal year. I've asked Lucy to balance out the numbers, and she has, so that it just won't show on paper that there are any negative balances, because those are just allocations and don't really mean anything. The overall number will well under our budget, so. Responsible. Any questions about the budget?
Any questions from the board? Nope.
Monthly issue report, there are 1, 2, 3, 4. First one, the caller from Clay County, and explained we didn't have jurisdiction, gave them the number to the State Ethics Commission. Caller from Gainesville, again, I referred them to the State Ethics Commission. Hotline call I received months ago from an employee. I wasn't sure whether it would fall under our jurisdiction, but they disappeared before I could catch up with them. I tried for months. I actually did catch up with him. He did not want to move forward. So, there's no further action to take. We wouldn't have a cooperation. And then lastly, I have a complaint from a candidate, and this one went public. Filed a complaint. Beyond what I shared with you here, I received a call from Mr. Baker, who was one of the people whom the complaint alleged did something wrong. He explained that the complainant actually was never removed from the committee. He apparently heard from someone who received the memo and assumed that he had been removed. The committee was one that would have removed him, but they didn't respond to the memo. So if he had showed up and participated, he could have. So it really was no claim there. So I'm asking the board to vote to close all board.
Is there a motion to accept the recommendations of? Have a motion, do I have a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? It passes. Mr. Smith moved. Mr. Green second. Moving on to agenda item number 8.
Right. Yeah, I have one,
Oh,
number 7.
sorry about that.
That's right. Number 7, I have one general update, and that was that, and I don't know if Chief Kelly wants to speak to it, but he and I met with the coalition for a brief afternoon talk. And I think we both thought it was a positive conversation.
Does Mr. Kelly want to add anything else to that, or is he happy with that assessment? That'll be the case.
As usual, Dwight did a wonderful job explaining the meeting.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Floyd, for the update. Number 8.
Okay, agenda item number 8 is self-regulation. There has been discussion on this topic. And, we have heard it from elected officials, and we talked about it in this room. And John and I discussed it. We collaborated on this. And as he will explain, we went to various sources to bring this to you. So, it's a matter of what you want to keep or not keep. And I'll turn it over to John.
Okay. So, at prior meetings, this board has asked whether we have the ability to self-regulate ourselves, including and going as far as expulsion. And I initially was going to look into whether we were authorized to do that. At the last meeting, I know this board said, well, put the proposals in front of us so we can look at it and see if there's something to work with. So I have 2 documents in front of you. One was just a basic legal memorandum talking about background legal authorities. We do, the charter explicitly gives us the ability to draft our bylaws based on Robert's Rules of Order. Deliberative assemblies do have an inherent right to police themselves. So I feel very strongly that we have the legal authorization to take actions against ourselves and self-regulate ourselves if necessary. And again, I mentioned last week or last month, I don't think that'll ever be necessary. We've got a very good board, but I know that's something that has been asked among people, among city staff and others saying, you police us, who polices you? And I said, well, that's a good point. So, so there's some language here, just to go procedurally. The bylaws do provide for a first reading and then passage on a second reading of a bylaw change, unless it has been noticed 5 days prior and you've received copies of the language, then you can pass it out on your first reading with a 2/3 vote. So that would be something this board would want to decide on whether they want to take action, push it to next month, or maybe make amendments. So two things. One, our bylaws did have a section providing for vacancies and removals. And it had this one little sentence, a member is removed by the board after notice and with cause, but doesn't really go through and explain what that is. So we tried to flesh that out a little bit. We had some language about a member failing to attend 2 of 3 successive regular meetings without cause automatically vacates their seat. No due process, nothing. So I added some language here about unexcused absence or being without cause would have to be a determination made by this board. So, somebody may have a sick family member they have to provide for, and the board should be able to say that that's legitimate reason to not be at a meeting, and you shouldn't automatically vacate your seat and we have to go get it filled again. We also provided some provisions, and this was the with cause provision that was vague in the initial bylaws. And here I went through different jurisdictions to see how other ethics boards and commissions handled it. Miami-Dade did have some provisions where they dealt with policing themselves and regulating themselves. San Francisco, believe it or not, I actually looked at San Francisco, which had the language about the crimes of moral turpitude, et cetera, being tied to ethics and being grounds for possible removal. And then the political activity is something that actually is here in the state of Florida. Dudley Goodlett is on the Ethics Commission down in Naples. Many of you may remember Representative Goodlett. They actually have this provision, and I took most of their language, probably did plagiarize a little bit here on their political activity language to see how other jurisdictions are doing it. I knew this would be a little controversial, so I wanted to put it out there. I know it's not something that you have to go with, but I wanted to put everything that I could find that I thought seemed somewhat reasonable to the board, so the board could make your own decisions and debate them.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. So about to engage discussion. I'd like to go in recent order of the recommended changes, so we have some direction of how we approach this and how we can, if we're good with the provision itself, we can just move on to the next one. And we have at least a semblance of what we approve and don't approve. So regarding the first change, regarding the determination of an excused absence for any member of the board shall be made by a majority vote. Concerns, issues, questions?
I would recommend that we use the term without cause in the amendment so that it mirrors
Okay.
the previous paragraph.
Okay.
I don't know that we define unexcused absence.
Any other recommendations, suggestions, or edits? If not, we'll move on to the next provision. Now, this is one dealing with removal finding a majority of board for, and then it goes into the. Let's take one at a time. We're violating a provision of municipal ethics code. Any consider removing a fellow member for violating the ethics code? Moving on to B, engaging in official misconduct. Official conduct means, you mean official that one, did you mean official misconduct or?
Misconduct, yeah, I'm sorry.
Misconduct means any wrongful behavior by a member in relation to the duties of the board, willful in its character, including any failure, refusal, or neglect of a member to perform any duty required by these bylaws, or conduct that falls below the standard of decency, good faith, and right action impliedly required of all members, including any violation of the specific conflict of interest or governmental ethics law. Mouthful, but concerns, issues, recommendations, and this provision. Okay. Moving on to C, failure to meet the eligibility requirements as provided herein. You know, that's come up before. Any concerns with the board taking that consideration, actually removing the member? Concerns there? No. Okay, so far so good. Willfully engaging in ex parte communications with the respondent of an active complaint and knowingly failing to report said communication pursuant to Article 7, Section 1 of these bylaws. Concerns, questions, heartache? No? Moving on. F, a final conviction of a felony involving moral turpitude and a finding by the majority of the board that the crime for which the member was convicted warrants removal. Everybody's good there? All right. Now it gets to the fun one. Here we go. All right. Engaging in prohibited political activity. So, prohibited activity. No member shall hold office in political party or political committee. Let's go one by one. Any concerns there with a member, a political party or political committee? Mr. Payne.
Got two concerns there. First, regarding the no members shall hold office in any political party. My biggest concern there, my question is, our jurisdiction applies to nonpartisan offices. So why are we concerned at all with membership of, a political party?
Interesting.
I looked up Florida Statute 112.046 with the header Political Party Committee Membership Allowed. The actual statute says, notwithstanding any other provision of law, an officer or employee of the state or any political subdivision may also serve as a member of the state executive committee or county executive committee of a political party. No person shall be required to resign from public office or employment because of membership on such a committee. I don't know whether this law would apply to us. It looks like it does. But even if it doesn't, I still go back to my original. Why does it concern us when we're dealing with nonpartisan offices?
Questions?
Well, I just had a comment on that. I tend to agree. I have some more things later in this
Sure.
section.
We'll go by one. Okay. So right now, there is a possible recommendation to remove this portion regarding political party, political committee.
No, that's the second one. Political committee. I've got something else for that.
Okay, well, it seems you want to remove that too, but continue.
Okay, political committee, it is not sufficiently defined in my mind. I did check statutory definition of political committee, and my main concern there was actually from my own standpoint. I wondered if I might be in violation of this because of my membership in the League of Women Voters, specifically the Committee for Local Government. That's why I did the research. From what I could tell, I could find no definition in political committee that would apply to that. But I'm still left wondering, what does political committee mean? I wondered if it meant political action committee, a PAC, which purpose is to contribute to campaigns. If that were the case, it certainly should be prohibited political activity. But if that's what it means, it just needs to be spelled out more explicitly. What does political committee mean?
Okay, good. Any comments on that?
Again, I would agree with Mr. Payne. the OR Political Action Committee, do have some issues with, with the nature of political tax these days. One could support an issue or candidate in another state that you may support, and they're just so broad,
Mhm.
and they may touch down in anything. And so, how do you know if there are? What if I could? I'll just use an example about my hometown is in Georgia,
Mhm.
and I'm contributing to a PAC that's supporting a state candidate within Georgia, and that same PAC may roll in here one day and contribute one day to a county or city commissioner. Would I know that, or how would I be in violation? I may not support. Then I fall back to Mr. Payne's first comment. It's apolitical or non-political. So why is it even relevant to what we're doing here? So all that combined, I kind of have issues with this section.
Okay. All right, any more comments on this section? Moving, yes, Ms. Black.
It's unclear to me whether all of the clauses that are separated by commas in the first part of G little I all modify that supports the campaign or candidacy of the city mayor or city commissioners. Or if that only refers to the last portion of that sentence immediately before that supports the campaign or candidacy of the city mayor. So there may be a narrowing there. And even then, you may still not like it, Mr. Payne, or Vice Chairman. But I wonder if that maybe gives it a little bit more of a guidepost about what we're concerned about, and that might jive better with what we understand our jurisdiction to be. But it's not clear whether that says.
And before we go further in this discussion, I think the end goal of this recommendation of these changes is to ensure that there's no questions of our position on matters. That nobody questions our partiality, our position on issues because of where we stand on political issues. And it mostly concerns the city level, because that's ultimately who we regulate and who we oversee. So at the end of the day, these recommendations should be focused solely on our position publicly regarding candidates running for office. We should not be brought into that issue. My goal and my hope is that no one can question our judgment. And no one's going to come to us and saying that someone has to be removed or excused because that person actively campaigned against somebody who we're reviewing and considering. If you want to be involved in politics, fine. But you can't be a member of this board in my position regarding city politics. Let's not get into, politics is, my mom always says, stay out of politics. I should have listened, but we're here, we made our sacrifice to do here. We decided to be on this board. We asked to be on this board. I think we should make every possible action we can to ensure that, we refrain from engaging in any discussion because it's going to get nasty no matter what politics get. And I don't want any board member to be dragged into that. That's my goal. So if we can tailor this language that specifically just speaks to activities of city elections, let's work towards that. But we'll continue going through this and see if we can tailor this language to narrow down the scope of what I would like to see as far as restrictions on local campaigns. Ms. Costa.
I think it's implied that it's while you are currently on the board, but the only other thing that's a little murky there is if you've ever
Yeah.
contributed to someone in the past,
Gotcha.
would you need to recuse yourself at that point or something of that matter? So is it while currently on the board or if ever? Probably needs to be a little clearer.
That's good. Okay. Spring.
One other little point, regarding a PAC, as I understand them, I've really never been involved in any, but don't have very much control over where the money goes. So you may contribute for a PAC that's for abortion rights or something like that, but they start campaigning or financing a particular campaign, that can be a problem. So it's just a problematic phrase there.
And to that point, they shift. Let's say it's a national race or, Senate race. and they feel you may have contributed again back in your home state. And they think this candidate may not need support. So now they shift to another state that they may consider a battleground, or a city that may have something coming through that they want to contribute to. And now they shift what you initially thought was going there. And now, oh, let's dump this into City of Tallahassee. How do you get out of that? Since it's a pack, but if we can tailor the language to just not supporting any candidate locally or whatever, however, then I'll be a lot more comfortable with that. When you include such a large entity like a political action committee, it makes it a little difficult.
Okay.
But
Yes,
I
Ms. Costa.
do like, in reinforcement of what you said before, that I think we need to hold ourselves to the highest standards. So therefore, there's no question when those same standards are brought to us, is that we can say, look, we fall into the same guise, if not a more strict policy. So we expect you to at least follow this policy.
Any more discussion on this phrase here? We're moving on to the next one, which is actively participate in, endorse, or contribute to any political campaign or political action committee, going back to that supports the campaign or candidacy of a city mayor or city commissioners. Or allow his or her name or likeness to be used by a campaign or political action. Do that. Allow his or her name or likeness, common sense, to be used by a campaign or political action committee in support or against any candidate referred to here and above. Let's take the last one first. Concerns there. The first one's dealing with political action committee. We have to tailor that a bit more, but the issue of allowing yourself, your name or likeness to be used by a campaign or political action committee in support or against any candidate referred to here or above. First one thing, they won't be able to do that without your approval. If it happens, you bring it to our attention, we can deal with it then. If somehow they took a picture of you and they posted on a mailer, we can probably deal with that situation. But is there any concern with the issue of prohibit that your likeness to be used by a campaign or political action committee in support or against any candidate referred to here and above? Sharon's comment, discussion? No. All right, let's go to the middle part. Actively participate in, endorse, or contribute to any political campaign. Stop there. Concerns with that part right there.
This is only with respect to
City.
city council.
City election, not county, yeah.
I know, because I contributed,
Yeah.
except not for the city.
City or, just city judge, anything else, it'll be fine, county level, but this is actively participate in, which is, what we define as participate in, what's that considered? Where you define that, or is that like common sense, okay, just endorse or contribute to any political campaign? Does anything there have to be defined, or is that clear enough that it's clear that you should not be endorsing or contributing to any political campaign of a city candidate?
I think it's clear.
That's clear? Okay. The next part, or political action committee that supports the campaign or candidacy of a city mayor or city commissioners. Now, it's been brought up that you may contribute to a national political action committee, which ultimately ends up giving money to someone else unbeknownst to you. As a board member, you were not aware of that and may come up later on. Someone may investigate that. Concerns there? Ms. Costa.
Maybe even knowingly contribute to or at a, because again, that would kind of take out the
Okay.
accidental contributions that we were unaware of.
Okay.
And that may not be in the right spot. But
Yeah, somewhere in there. Just read it, catching. He'll make the edits, so hopefully he's catching all this. Concerns with that aspect? With Political Action Committee. Okay. Just review for GI. I think there is some of this agreement that the first portion regarding political party, we're dealing with nonpartisan office. Holding office of political party should not be a restriction. against board members, I'll leave it up to the board. And political action committee is too broad in a sense, so understanding the comments from the board, my recommendation is to remove that first phrase, the first portion of it. And just start off with the actively portion.
That's good.
No member shall actively. So it will read as no member shall actively participate and endorse or contribute to any political committee or knowingly contribute something to that effect to a political action committee that supports the campaign or candidacy of a city mayor or city commissioners. Allow his or her name or likeness to be used by a campaign or political action committee in support of or against any candidate referred to or herein above. Concerns, issues with that modification? Everybody's good with that?
Maybe just, again,
Yes.
while actively.
Yeah, oh, that's good, yes.
That.
Yes, no member while actively serving, well, that, no member while actively serving on the board shall, and the rest of it.
I think all these words are perspective, so I
Yeah.
don't think I don't think it would reach back. So just,
Yeah, like I said, implied, I just wasn't
Yeah.
sure if we needed to cover ourselves or not.
it's no member shall,
Okay,
not shall have them.
okay,
So I think we should be fine.
okay, we're fine, okay.
And just,
So-
if I could just,
Yes, Mr. Reed.
as far as the knowingly, it's a lot of words, but I think if we could move, or contribute to any political campaign that supports, any political campaign of city mayor or city commissioner, or knowingly contributes to, or contributes to a political action committee known to support the campaign or candidacy of a city mayor. So I'd have the city mayor and the city commissioner twice, so it's a little wordy, but I think it'd be good to distinguish. Because if you're giving to a candidate, you obviously know you're giving to a candidate. But if you
Yeah.
give to a committee, the committee may change its scope or its goals. So that was my thought.
So if you just say knowingly contribute, then that just refers to the act of making the contribution with the intent requirement. I'd be happy to work with you on this, but something like knew or should have known that the PAC supports one of these candidates. I think that's what the knowledge would need to be in order.
Yeah, they would have to know that their contribution was going to a committee that supported. I think you could also argue that if they made a contribution and then the committee later supported the candidate, it didn't do it at the time they made the contribution. But I could work on this if.
I'm not sure we want to prohibit that. I mean, if the vice chair's point, if the PAC
Oh, no,
takes
absolutely.
a left turn and decides it wants to support someone, you go, wait a minute, I didn't sign up for that. I don't know
I
that.
think that, because I think the argument would be if we say you can't contribute to a campaign, then you just say, okay, well, tell me which committee I got to give to. So I can get around the rule. And so I think we just want to make sure that, but then at the same time, we don't want to cast the net so broad that you can't involve in any speech that doesn't involve the city, but could foreseeably deal with the city of the future. So I think that would be the balance. Are we going to bring this back next month?
Yes, I think at this time,
Okay.
it should be brought back to.
Good.
Yes, yeah, bring it back.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Don't give me discretion.
No. Yeah, let's bring it back next month. All the changes we have, fresh eyes with the new words. Okay, moving on to G2. Everybody good with G1 so far? Moving on to G2. Nothing herein shall preclude a member from signing a petition in support of or against any referendum or ballot question involving the city of Tallahassee. Concerns, questions, everybody's good with that?
It's probably a dumb question. Can you have a referendum item that involves a particular commissioner or the mayor?
The office of the mayor, but not.
Not the human.
Yeah.
Governor can't.
Yeah, but not, you can't do it through a referendum, can you?
Number of commissioners.
No, okay.
As a follow up to that, could, if there was one about the ethics committee, us,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Which one?
It was a referendum about us.
Then we're,
like if somebody changed some of the things we talked about possibly one day going back on the ballot to change some things now that we know more about it.
With the, like the ethics board?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that would be permissible. You could
Yeah, it's up to you guys.
do that if you wanted to.
You guys want to restrict that?
The point of this is just what you want to restrict. And
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, what we're trying to ensure is, non-bias regarding the adjudication of members of the city. And, the signing of referendum regarding Tallahassee Ethics Board really doesn't speak to our job as ethics board. We actually oversee the actions of city staff and members, commission members. So I don't think there's an issue. I think this clarifies you guys can still sign referendums regarding the city of Tallahassee. It will not in any way, impact your ability to carry out your duties as a member of the board.
one other thing that just occurred to me, 2 years ago, I participated in a petition to get somebody on the ballot for the county commission.
Mhm.
But if that, of course, that wouldn't apply, but if somebody wanted, if a candidate wanted to get on a petition simply to get on the ballot, that would not be supporting the candidate
No.
technically.
Yeah, and that's just giving members, some petition support of or against referendum. So yeah, you see an issue there? I don't see it as far, I went through this process. If I were to qualify to get on a ballot, you get petitions signed by citizens of the city. Should you prohibit? I don't see how you'd be prohibited from allowing somebody just the ability to run for office.
I don't see a problem.
I don't see a problem with that.
And that should be explicitly
Yeah.
excluded there.
Yeah.
You could argue that this just explicitly authorizes these two
Yeah.
examples. So I would say signing a petition for a candidate is still in a gray area. So I think as Mr. Payne stated, we may want to clarify.
Yeah,
that.
let's clarify that. But
Also, Florida does have recall provisions for local elected officials.
I was thinking
That
about
may be
that.
something we want to also address.
Okay, let's find, let's look into that a little bit as well. What the provisions are for recall. And the last thing you want is a member of the board signing a petition to recall a current member of the commission. So let's flesh that out a little bit more. But I think I agree with you as far as you should be allowed to sign petitions to allow people to run for, to get on the ballot, to run for office and referendums. But when it comes to recall, that's to be a little gray area. Let's look into that one. So for G2, recommendation is to flesh out regarding petition for candidates to get on ballots and referendums for recall of a current sitting commissioner or mayor.
And I could just tell you that recalls under section 100.361. And if you meet they have enumerated grounds for removal, like malfeasance, misfeasance, neglect of duty, drunkenness, incompetence, permanent inability to perform their official duties, conviction of a felony involving moral turpitude. And then Tallahassee actually does have additional provisions. Is that true for recall? Well,
Sure.
where if you involve in the day-to-day business, that's an additional ground that Tallahassee's unique to them. But yeah, based on the size of the municipality, I think for us, it would be, you'd need a petition signed by at least 1,000 electors or 5% of the total number of registered electors of the municipality, whichever is greater. So there is a petition signing aspect of the recall.
All right, so let's flesh G2 out a little bit more.
Okay.
I would prefer exclusion for recall of local officers. Because that is giving a message as far as our position of the member of what they think of a certain commissioner. And if the recall doesn't go through and they still a commissioner and they come before this board again, it will be questioned whether or not that person can be impartial on that matter. So let's flesh out G2. Is that okay with the board, that recommendation? Okay. Moving on to G3, which I think needs to be fleshed out, but let's see what you guys think. For the purpose, read through it first or? Okay. For a purpose of this subsection, the term support includes allowing a yard sign to be displayed in any property occupied by or owned by a member and wearing any article of clothing such as a shirt or hat or article of adornment, such as a pin, with the result that those activities are prohibited. A little more fleshing out, but Mr. Payne,
Okay,
either way.
I've got a lot to say about this, and it's going to be somewhat controversial.
All right,
I apologize, I'm going to read a lot of it, but don't
sure.
miss any points.
Sure.
The phrase, allowing a yard sign to be displayed in any property occupied by or owned by a member. I agree with the intent of the section. As you said, we can't be seen as biased in any manner for or against any city commissioner. However, the language as used in this draft could be interpreted to prohibit political activity, not just of board members, but of any member of their household. I'd like to point to my own situation to illustrate the point, not just to illustrate the point, but to address for the record some concerns that I know some members of the City Commission have expressed to Mr. Floyd about the activities, not so much of me, but of my wife. I'm the only member of this board who was appointed by the City Commission. The appointment was made according to some of the comments expressed by the commissioners who supported me by unanimous vote, because I was well known by the commissioners for being actively involved in city government issues. Both my wife and I have regularly attended City Commission meetings for many years. As concerned citizens, we also occasionally speak at these meetings when public comment is called for. My wife actually does this a lot more than I do, especially since I've been a member of the Ethics Board. I've rarely spoken and never, of course, on concerning issues that might come before the board. After my appointment to the board, although I continued attending commission meetings with my wife, I made it a point not to actively support or oppose any city commission candidates in subsequent elections. I did continue to contribute to candidates at the county, state, and federal level, but not city candidates. My wife, Ramona, however, did not feel that she was bound by any actual or implied rules governing my board membership, and I certainly agree with her. She has continued to express her opinions, contributing to city commission campaigns, wearing campaign t-shirts and buttons, though not to commission meetings, and requesting and posting campaign yard signs on property which we own jointly. That is her constitutional right. Ramona has a different last name than mine, although she is well known to the commissioners as an individual and as my wife. She and I have always had separate bank accounts. She spends her money as she wishes, and of course, made the contributions in her name, and certainly has always had her own political opinions, which may or may not be similar to mine. All of this is to explain why I have concerns about this language. As written, this prohibits a board member from residing in any property at which any resident has expressed their opinion through a yard sign. The phrase occupied by or owned apparently suggests that if a board member were renting an apartment or at a complex and the property owner or another tenant displayed a yard sign, that board member would be in violation, so they would have no control over the actions of these other people. Some might say in my own house, I do have control over my wife's actions, but we don't have that kind of marriage. I wouldn't be a living with Ramona. Neither I nor this board have any right to infringe on her First Amendment rights or those on any other members of my household. One other point I would like to make: there is a precedent for this situation. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, there were neighbors on my street, a couple who were particularly politically active. The husband in this household, Ion Sancho, ran for Leon County Supervisor of Elections and won. I haven't gone back to verify this, but in my memory, Ion changed his party affiliation upon taking office from Democrat to NPA. And I think that was appropriate. He went on to have a 30-year career in the office, as most of you know, and was one of the most highly respected supervisors of election in the state, if not the nation. His wife at that time, however, was a well-known Democratic Party activist and actually was the elected Democratic committeewoman for our precinct for many years. She proudly displayed yard signs for her preferred candidates, and it was generally understood that these were her signs, not his. And I don't recall any controversy arising from this. So as I said, I'm in full agreement with the intent of this section. I willingly relinquish my own rights because of my position on the board, and I would expect it of any of us. But I think we should strike any language that appears to apply to any individual other than the board member.
Any more comments? Yes.
I think between A and B, I think it should be or as opposed to and.
Gotcha. Yeah. Let's look at 3B first. I think it'll be the easier one to deal with. Wearing any article of clothing such as a shirt or hat or an article of adornment such as a pin, with the result that those activities are prohibited. Does that make sense to anybody? Clear?
No problem with that. I've never worn such a thing.
Okay. So B is fine. What is I think the intent or goal of not displaying yard signs? I know the issue is kind of an endorsement, but then again, other people can live there. I'll leave it to the board. What any recommendations from the board as far as A? Because I'm not going to display anything on our sign, so I'm not going to impact me or my family. But anybody regarding A?
Can I comment?
Mr. Kelly?
And I'm with him 100%. I can tell you right now, if I told my wife that this was put in place, she'd put a sign up there just to spite me. So, that's the big problem. I'm with him 100% on, I can control my behavior in my household, but I don't have the right to impose on the liberties of the people who live in that home with me, or visitors, or people who come by and spend a few days. If they want to post something in the yard that's not immoral or inappropriate. But I just think that their liberty rights and their First Amendment rights shouldn't be stepped on by our ruling here. I think that whole thing should be scratched.
And wouldn't it also include if I was a landlord, someone was renting my property, so that's infringing upon that tenant's right. Adult child living with you, anyone. So I think it's very restrictive. I wouldn't be in support of Section 8.
Okay. Costa?
I think certainly the intent, even if there was a complaint about it, I do think then it would just, because there may be complaints, because if I only know that you live in that house and I don't know whether you're married or not, I assume that it's your beliefs. So I do see where the assumption may occur and where some ethics violations may be called into the hotline potentially, but then I think there would be no substantial evidence based off of the fact that then the conversation would be had. So I do agree with the intent of it, and I do think the sitting members should still abide by this, but there should be some sort of that maybe clarifying it, that the member may not place the sign or place their things, but not specifically on any property, period. Because I do think it's important that we still not show our own bias, but what if you're even living with somebody that's not a family member, but because you need help with rent and want to have somebody else in your home, or you're helping out someone else and have a tenant, total separate, not even families. That's putting them back to as well.
Do we need to also include in this section the explicit city qualifier? Because I've got
Yes.
signs up for
Yeah.
county commission right now, so.
Is it clear from this is referring to just Mr. Reed as supporting just city activities are prohibited? Let's see. This herein, right?
So the first part says for purposes of this subsection,
subsection support.
So that would be-
So, okay,
all of G.
so just city, city-related activity. Okay.
Now, what if I own an event space or restaurant and a political campaign wants to rent out
Use it.
my spot? What do I do in a situation like that?
Good question.
And they want, for their event, they want to put yard signs in the windows or balloons and the signs walking up. Do I just have to forego
Yeah.
that income or something like that? But I don't care what party comes to use it, what candidate, I just want to get that money. But
Yeah.
Be fine. If it was truly somebody paying to use your space and you weren't giving them a favor,
Okay.
then I think it would be more if you let the favor happen. But if you have an event space and someone's using it the same way that I would have a birthday party there too,
All right.
then I wouldn't think that there would be any, but again, that's perception.
You would be allowed, it's your space, you could attend. According to B here, you couldn't wear a T-shirt or a button, but if we let B in there without A, then that would apply.
Or I couldn't allow it right now with A, I couldn't allow them to put a yard sign up because I own it. It doesn't even speak to if they rent it or not. It says I own it.
That's as far as recommendations, what I understand, let's remove A for now. Just use B as a definition of what support means. If you don't flesh out support, more than just wearing clothes, I don't know, clothing, hat, article, adornment. So we already spoke about endorsements, so that's taken care of before. Okay, yeah, let's just do 3.
If, when fleshing out support, rather than putting in all the information about property owned by a member or anything like that, placing a sign, because for us on the board, we should not place the sign, but it's not saying where. So maybe you could still put something about, because if not, then it doesn't preclude us from doing it, or if someone watches us do it or help your significant
Oh,
other
yeah.
with the sign.
Yeah,
There
that's,
still could be something about it in there for us,
yeah.
but not on any property.
Yeah, because the situation you have, like, let's say, fine, you put any signs on your yard, but you're going around the neighborhood,
Right,
you sign everybody else's property.
Right.
Like, all right, I didn't contribute, didn't give any money, but I'm just putting up signs on people's property.
Right.
I'm in the clear. So we can work something out
Yeah,
there.
I would point out that for all the political signs I might have in my yard,
Yeah.
when I mow the yard, I take the signs up
Yeah, but yeah,
and I put them back in.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, when-
These kind of, but yeah, that's the one is a member going down, at 90, at Mayhem, just going,
Right.
putting up signs and up,
Not mine, no,
not
not it.
my property and not my money, then spend it, just putting up signs. Oh, yeah.
Sundays.
So, yeah, let's,
Something about placement.
You're right. And if we could tighten it, not just about articles of clothing, right?
Yeah.
Nowadays we have to consider our social media posts.
yeah, that's what I was gonna discuss. Yeah,
Yeah, you have
social
to-
media posts, Twitter, anything of that
Anything
effect.
on my car, even though it speaks to property, but,
Yeah.
I can say, well, I haven't paid it off yet, so it's not technically mine.
Can we do, yeah, something in reference to,
As far as car goes, I do share a car with my wife.
yeah. Killing me, man, you're killing me.
Yeah.
All right,
I
but
think,
it's something to social media, we should make a reference to that as well.
I think what we're trying to get to is things that are within your sole city control
Yes.
discretion.
That You're actually taking action yourself to do.
That's why I think social media would be clear, because
Yeah.
we've had cases that come before us about, city officials.
Yep.
So I want to make sure we are being accountable for ourselves when it comes to that, though.
Okay, Let's see here, support like this. Yeah, we don't make any reference here, right, to volunteering for a campaign, do we? Is there anything here that restricts you from volunteering for a campaign?
That'd be
They
to
actively
actively
participate.
Participate, okay, so no putting up signs then, good.
No standing on the corner.
No standing at corner and waving signs. Okay, so that's clear, good. All right, Mr. Reed, let's work on G3, B. And A, we're gonna have to like. See if there's anything else out there you can find, I can sort of narrow that issue, not just take it out. So let's work on that.
Take out the signs.
Yeah, the thing is saying allowing a yard sign, so basically if you're in my house and just sit there and watch somebody put the yard, my wife put the yard sign up, I allow it. Yeah, that should not be a grounds for removal, but
But I think, like you said, they actively participate.
yeah,
You actually putting the sign in, not somebody else on the property.
yeah,
So we may be covered in that. Like I said, this is actually word for word from Naples.
Yeah.
There's no pride of authorship on my end. Strike down, we wanted to put, Dwight and I talked about this the other day. What are we gonna do? So let's throw it out and let you guys
Yeah.
have at
it was
it.
good, it was a
So,
good start.
And add the social media part.
And something about, something on social media as well, regarding, I don't know, something to that effect, if you put any language out there.
that could be under the actively participating.
Yeah.
force.
Could work, yeah,
Definition of electioneering.
Okay.
yeah, that's what, 100, something like that. Okay. That's that for this. Amendment. Any comments, concerns, recommendations? We have a lot of good ideas here, good progress.
And just so you know, when I took this job, I went to NPA. And I don't put yard signs in my yard. This particular candidate came by, we hugged. You don't know who that is, you know? And I didn't have to tell them. They volunteered. You know? They understood it. That's the way I live my life.
All right.
Nine.
Moving on, everybody's good? Moving on.
I presented item last board meeting about getting assistance with social media, public relations. It's not a full PIO. I have had discussions with, Mr. Shiraz and his wife who are here today. And, I just asked them to give a presentation on what they see in terms of offering. And I'm asking you, don't pay attention to the numbers, the hours and the amounts. That's something that Kara and I and John can discuss later if we go that far. But I'm asking you to look at it conceptually, give any input into, ask questions, things of that nature. Make sure it's going in the direction that you want it to go in. And then, like I said, if it is, then the chair, John and I can talk with them about details and cost and that kind of stuff to make sure we're treating them fair and they're giving us what we need. So I'm going to crank up the PowerPoint, little PowerPoint. It'll take about 10 minutes, so he's going to be on the clock. Very good. You can use that or that. You can sit.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rory Chirac, and I represent Chirac Media Group, and my wife is here with me. Chirac, she is our CEO. And I am here to speak about the City of Tallahassee Independent Ethics Board Social Media Management Campaign Proposal. To give you an overview, Chirac Media Group, we are a multifaceted organization specializing in news reporting, copywriting, editing, podcasting, social media content creation, photography, videography, SEM, SEOs, search engine marketing, and search engine optimization, music production, nonprofit, public relations, life coaching. And just to go over briefly are the social media strategies and execution. As you well know, social media is, when used properly, is a viable tool in all areas, business and personal. And we are looking at social media blasts with customized posts, videos, photos using the platforms Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And we've learned that if you've seen it yourself, video are one of the biggest platforms that get a lot of engagement. Our content creation feature information about informal and formal opinions from the ethics officer. Listen, as I said, talking about videos and photos to correspond with these opinions. An approved hashtag will appear on each post across the platforms. And this drives traffic for trending and searchable topics. And participants in the video will include the Independence Ethics Board chairpersons, staffers, and key personnel to provide the detailed information. Promotion of monthly meetings will begin exactly 2 weeks from the date of the session. The announcements will highlight the YouTube link to view the meeting and key talking points that will be discussed. And then a recap after the monthly meeting. The content will be there again with the YouTube link so people can go back, and that will add for additional viewership. Along with direct quotes from the session will appear in the tweets and the various posts. Another thing that we are looking to do with all social media accounts will be unified with the same name, and password information will only be accessible to select staffers. And Chirac Media Group will monitor the engagements of the likes, follows, comments, shares, retweets, and stitches to track the progress. We're also looking to speak with polling officials and staffers to gather research on information in areas where there seems to be a lower voter turnout. And based off this data, we will create customized marketing strategies to increase participation in these regions of the city. And this will include video promotions with a diverse group, of local celebrities and personalities. I've already confirmed the gentleman on the left you may know is DJ Demp. He is a very famous music producer and DJ. And the gentleman on the right is the football coach at Florida A&M University, Coach Willie Simmons. I will be doing videos, recording them. Just mention no, obviously, endorsements of any candidate or anything like that, but just things that are to help get engagement for various, for the campaigns. And our team will also write PSA spots that will be aired on radio stations, the target demographic of 18 to 24-year-olds. And these spots will run continuously with heavy emphasis on the morning time and afternoon drive time. That's where you're going to get the peak of any type of listenership with radios. And we will also correspond with what's going on these radio stations. The PSAs and the videos will appear across all Chirac Media Group platforms. Additional media promotions, annual ethics training for city employees, excerpts from the course highlighting major points and encouraging employees to complete the training. Promotion of the campaign contribution program starting September 2023 through November 2024. We'll begin in the fall of the off season and continue through the election year. We will submit a press release to the TV stations, newspaper, magazines, and other media outlets here in Tallahassee, and coordinate radio and TV streaming web podcast appearances featuring an ethics officer. Preview of the interview will be promoted across all the social media platforms, and additional content going back to the video clips and photos of the interview. We will create ad copy on billboards in highly visible locations, suggested areas, Interstate 10, both directions, Monroe Street in various spots, specifically Monroe and Monroe and Orange, Tennessee Street, and Capitol Boulevard. And as I stated earlier, that's my wife, Lakita Chirac. She's the CEO, and I am the Chief Media Officer. We have extensive experience in these areas. My wife works as a coach in addition to being the brains of our operation as the CEO. And this is my work is I have an extensive media background, previously with the Tallahassee Democrat, before with Chirac Media Group on a full-time basis. And that basically concludes our presentation. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns?
Just note where we're talking about increasing voter participation, that's linked to the campaign contribution refund program. Because one of the things I learned from working with that program is that we need to reach the audience that feels that they don't have a voice. And right now, we're reaching people who are going to give anyway. So that's what that's all about. Like I said, any questions, comments, suggestions?
Any comments?
Just one that, can we get a copy of this PowerPoint and maybe put it into the agenda?
Sure.
And this, again, this is just a presentation. I just want to discuss more what we actually need. What I was seeing, this purpose is to get more awareness of what we do here as far as our opinions, as far as the meetings. Great presentation, very grandiose and vision. I don't need it that big though. As far as what we were trying to achieve, I think the PSA regarding campaign contribution reimbursements, that could work. But I think it's more the idea we need, what I understood was the purpose of communicating our activities and our board through the different platforms. And just coordinate that message. Beyond that, I don't see it necessarily beyond that, but that's just my position is what we need is basically coordination through different platforms and communicating during the election season, not so much turnout. That's not our bailiwick. You vote, but if you can contribute, you have a right to reimbursement. That's the end of the day it's not about getting more people to vote or registering to vote. That's not our thing. We have a responsibility to get reimbursements to the people when they contribute and let people know that opportunity. But again, this is just the beginning. We can discuss further as far as what services we need to get done.
Just to comment on the idea of voter turnout. I think one of the main intents of the ordinance that established the campaign contribution refund program was to increase voter participation. People are able to contribute to a candidate and get reimbursed, so there's no cost to them. But when people contribute to the campaign, they're more involved in it, they're more likely to vote, which I can't see as a bad thing from an ethical standpoint or anything else. I think the establishment of the CCRP is part of who we are as the ethics board. And so whatever we can do to increase citizen input and citizen participation in the political process, I think is a good thing.
I think our emphasis, why I recommend, we already have an agency established to get turnout. That's supervisor elections. They do a great job of that. Our emphasis is not to, that's a great idea, but not to dilute our main purpose is to increase campaign contribution reimbursements.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
That should be our goal.
That should be our goal. That's the emphasis. If a side effect of that is greater participation, so be it. But the goal is to communicate. You contribute, we have a program to help you participate in that process. That's the emphasis of my recommendation. Comments? Ms. Blank.
Thank you. I think we might need a little bit of a right sizing. I would never want anyone to accuse us of trying to outshine the commission. And we're still kind of fledgling, so
Yeah.
I think that getting the word out about what we do, making sure that people know that we are a place that where you can make a complaint if you have a complaint to be made. I think that's probably where we're at in trying to get the voice out. And so maybe a right sizing of some of the incredible services that you offer, that might be appropriate.
Yeah.
Thank you. There's a big world out there. You might not need to grab all of it at once.
I think we can scope it.
Great. There's some great services there. We can.
Is there anything missing that you would want to see? It's easier to start big and scope it down.
Yeah.
So,
So ultimately, I think the goal is multiple platforms getting that coordinated. The PSA regarding our program, engaging the public in more participation and allowing that, showing them how they can actually participate in this process. We are open to the public beyond this meetings here, but this is custom.
And that's kind of what I would say is that maybe we think and talk about it at the next meeting or whatever, but maybe everyone think of like your top 3 priorities from what our goal. I know, Dwight, you came forward with us last time, and I don't have that paper with me this time, what kinds of things that you were kind of hoping in general, but going back and looking at that everyone kind of think of their top 3 things that we'd like. And then, like you said, I mean, you offer lots of different amazing services. And I do think some of those we need to utilize and we can utilize, but is that then we can kind of, again, hone it in. Like you said, it's easier to hone in, but I think that's going to be the biggest thing for us is to just be more streamlined and be, the whole KISS theory, keep it simple, silly.
So that's what I say.
Yeah. We're being recorded.
Yeah.
I think if you all are okay with it, I think I can work with the chairs. And get to where.
I was just informed that any remote viewers are looking at a black screen right now. Could we take the show down?
Yes.
Sorry, I don't.
No, that's not you.
Oh,
You heard us?
That's not
Yeah,
you.
okay.
They did that earlier. I would joke and say, what's wrong with a black screen?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Payne.
Thank you.
Any further comments, the suggestions? Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for being here today.
thank you, ladies and gentlemen, so much, and you all have a great day.
You too.
Thank you, Mr. Rock. Number 10.
Number 10, the 3-year strategic plan update.
Okay. Every year, we're required to do a strategic plan and present it to the city commission. This is a draft. I'll bring the final project for your approval next month. So I'm really just presenting it to you for your input. In a nutshell. There's some numbers that we'll fill in after the fiscal year and et cetera, so that's why you see something again. The chair is going to write his own comments.
Am I in the annual report or just this?
Then we'll,
Yeah, okay, strategic plan. I don't have any comments in there. Do I? Okay.
just want to give you an opportunity before I finalize.
Are you finalizing it today?
No,
Okay.
no. So I'll say it this way, if you have anything, let me know by the beginning of next month,
Okay.
so I can incorporate it. And we'll be good.
So updates by next month,
By the 1st of October.
Saturday? All right.
Of October.
2 weeks. Okay, 2 weeks.
Yeah, it has to, because then I have to do it, and get it ready.
Okay, so 2 weeks, everybody.
So it's pretty thorough. You asked for comments on it and it's pretty thorough.
Yeah. Okay, so number 11,
Strategic plan. Again, and I really do use this to guide me when I'm looking at what I do, whether I need to do something or not do something. I go to the strategic plan. Some of it was ambitious, so I've scoped it down some. Where you got all of that in red, it's reporting what has been done, where there are recommendations, that means I've added something for next year. And, my question is anything you want me to change for next year? So,
Move on to 11.
nothing, okay, same thing, but the first, if you have something, please get it to me, because I'll bring it back to finalize it.
I owe you some comments, huh? All right, I gotta work. Is it a TBA the whole time? My comments?
Okay,
All right.
then number 12, is that the addendum that I gave you. Um, it basically is saying that on the 17th of 2020, the board, completed, agreed on a contract with Attorney Reed. At that time, the board was paying him $125 and went to a more reasonable compensation, was $250 per hour, prorated for partial hours. The contract also allows compensation for other expenses, which he doesn't ask for. And there's a funding limitation based on the allocation of $70,000 this year. It's going to be in the range of 43 or 44,000 when all is said and done. Effective date of the contract was May 17, 2020 through September 20th, 2020, and it's automatically renewed every 2 years. Consider the fact that the city gives a cost of living increase to Ruthie and I every year. Last year it was 4.5. This year it's only 5%. Being facetious.
I was just gonna say, only.
And when I was doing the annual report, I just saw John's fingerprints through so much of the work, which speaks to the job that he's doing. And he's always there for us, whether it's dealing with legal sufficiency issues and reviewing complaints to advisory opinions to the recommendations. As you go through the annual report, you'll see his work all through there. So I just thought it was deserving that the board consider some type of increase for him. And I left it open. I did put a number on it. I'll leave that up to you all. But, we're dealing with inflation. So I think it's appropriate I'm recommending that the board offer him a cost of living increase, whatever amount you all agree to.
So move. Oh, I'm sorry.
Any comments, discussion? I think that we and I discussed, I think we would match the city's cost of living increase 5%. But this year was a 5% this year. That could be an option.
Yes.
We can do 9.5 to match the last 2 years increase. Leave it to the board. Or say, no, John, sorry.
And just to give you numbers, I think it would be $12.50 an hour, additional 9.5, I would round up to 10. So that would be an additional 25 an hour or somewhere in between. That's up to you. Just giving you numbers.
Increase the flat rate $50.
Any board members, comments, discussion, motions?
I think Mr. Floyd makes a good case, and I think Mr. Reed did a good job. So I'm concerned about the precedent of doing a standard cost of living increase at the same percentage as a salary worker, just like that. But as a kind of a general goal that in that general range, I think it makes sense. As Mr. Floyd said, around. I think it's a good.
Any number? Put a number out there.
$50 increase. $50 flat increase.
5%. So I will move for 5% increase.
5%.
Motion for 5% increase Second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Blank. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. I think we agree.
Effective,
Up,
effective when?
effective
October first.
October 1st. It's a great day.
Kind of housekeeping, but on page 2 of 7, I didn't catch it last year or in.
Yes.
It does say at a rate of 250 for Deborah Menace other than 200 for Deborah Menace. Or do we need to talk about increasing her as well? That would be, so the number written is 200, but the other is 250. Yeah, they don't mirror each other.
Yeah, change that.
So I didn't know whether 250 or supposed to be 200.
The rules generally, that if the written out rolls over the number. Okay.
Gotcha.
So I just make sure that
So
secretary
you gotta change that?
needs to be fit.
So we can amend it.
Okay. Yeah, when you amend now for the increase, just amend that language.
Did she get the increase? Did we need to talk about her getting the
Did
increase?
you get the increase too?
Have we had to use board?
Right?
Yeah, and that's why I was asking. We haven't had to use it.
We'll leave it for now.
We did use her once, didn't we?
Yeah, like a while back. But let's leave it for now.
We brought her in for a special project, I
Right,
think,
we
at one
did.
point.
We
where
did.
We authorized her compensation separately, and it was through her firm directly, not through me.
Yes.
So she did work with us, but not technically as a backup.
Gotcha. Okay.
You ain't have to deal
Let's
with
just fix that number.
Okay.
Any other questions on number 12? Okay. Annual evaluation.
Thank you.
Oh,
All right.
thank you for your service. Number 13, annual evaluation of executive director, ethics officer.
Each year we require to do an evaluation, which we have to report to the City of Tallahassee. I do one for Lucy, and I'm going to turn both of them in this week. Lucy has been hounding you all to get in. Did we get them all in?
I've gotten 4 out of 7.
4 out of 7.
You emailed it.
So who is missing?
I missed it.
Blank, a blank one?
Honestly, you know.
They're all in your agenda.
Got it in there? No, we don't have.
Oh, the one that was emailed.
Oh, the one that's emailed, yeah. Well, I'm
Been overworked.
Okay.
all right, so let's get that in.
Don't pay the bills.
Let's give a 2-week deadline too for that.
Well, no, we need that tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, so if you will, when you go home, please send that to Lucy so she can tally it and go in the
Get that done.
computer and fix it. Otherwise, we won't get a pay increase.
Oh, yeah, we need that.
Thank you.
Okay, so make sure you guys get that in tonight. All right. Public comment on non-agenda items.
Um,
Can I fill in for Mr. Butzine?
yes.
Yeah, sure.
Sure, go ahead.
I just want to take 1 second to introduce for Citizens for Ethics Reform, our newest member is Jerry Currington. For those of you who don't know him, Jerry worked long ago as a general counsel for the Florida House, but he overcame that and had a long career with the Attorney General's office, where among other things under his supervisory scope was all of the attorneys who presented cases before the Florida Commission on Ethics. He was also the first board attorney for this board up until he retired. So we are happy to have Jerry with us and hope that he will give us the same sage advice that he used to give to you.
Mr. Sims.
My name is Stanley Sims, 1320 Avondale Way. First, I want to commend this board, commend Mr. Floyd, and even Reed. I'm very appreciative, for the ground that we have covered. And this past year, I have gained a greater understanding, and I like to say a greater respect for this board. And I believe that Mr. Floyd and Mr. Reed, because I've called them and we are able to get an understanding. And with me, sometimes that's challenging. But I thank God for the diligence to work with me to get an understanding. And even though I'm still not pleased with the answers I hear, I understand better how to move forward. And so, and with that saying, I want to say this. I'm concerned. I'm concerned that our local government is not giving us what we asked for. And I do understand, I saw you had a media guy that really, Mr. Floyd has had several conversations with me, telling me your rim. But I get a lot of calls, Mr. Chairman. People won't come up here and say the stuff I say and take the stuff I take, but they'll call me. And so I'm having to explain to them that you can't do nothing about the mayor having private meetings at his house with staff meetings, with staff there. I'm having to explain to citizens that really the citizen board, police board, really don't have any power about a Navy SEAL who decapitated a man's head, and the police chief came down and was really insubordinate talking to a commissioner while he was lying, according to the Tallahassee Democrat. And so I thank you. But I'm in a precarious spot as a community activist. And the way you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm closing, this is my last one. The way you hashed out about self-regulating. Here's another point. What about me? Is Black Lives Matter a PAC group? Some days it's a social group, and then some days we consider it as a PAC. Depends on who you're talking to. And so I'm encouraged because when I walk in this room, I don't feel like I'm an adversary. You understand? A lot of times I walk in rooms and people give me an adversarial look and a demeanor. But I have issues. I've got a court case with the city that has been passed down to 4 judges. I've got a complaint where it's been sitting in the IG's office for 22 months. And the harassment doesn't stop. I've shared with Dennis that they don't even fear him. When I work with the state, somebody files a complaint with the auditor and they see you go to the auditor, oh, your supervisor don't talk to you, they don't bother you, they just make sure you do everything. Not here. They've come after my family, my son. And it's been hard for Mr. Floyd to explain to me that there ain't nothing he can do. So I'm so glad that y'all gave him a good, please give him a good review and a raise just on me. You understand what I mean? Thank you guys. You understand? And I know I'm challenging, Miss Ruth, Miss Bob. I know I'm challenging. But you guys have worked with me. And the people see it. They see it, Mr. Chairman. I don't want to mess your last name up. And we are turning this submarine slowly. I value you guys' work. Ms. Lucy, you understand? We're a unique team. And just thank you. Isn't it nice how I'm saying all this good stuff? I ain't never saying nothing. I ain't even upset. My pressure, see how soft I am? So I'm getting ready to go because I haven't eaten. Thank y'all.
Take care. Thank you.
Getting better. I'm gonna be a member of y'all group one day.
Any member discussion regarding desired for future agenda? Any directives? Ms. Barr moves, Ms. Blank seconds that we adjourn.